Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I think those are like the main time zones people greet each other in. Anyway, hope everyone is doing okay. I'm handling my day 6. Sorry for the absence. My 8 to 5 is it even an 8 to 5? My day job has had me pretty occupied over the last few days, actually, the whole of this week. So I'm just happy to be back. So I've done day 6, and man, this was uh, this was interesting. I think day 6 challenged me, had me figuring out what to do, and unfortunately, it's actually unfortunately, I think I'll go back to recording my uh, to recording this live. Probably those recordings will take longer, but I find them more meaningful compared to basically me recording after I've gone through everything. Anyway, so day 6 was patch management is harder. I thought that was LFI. So how is LFI in patch management coming in here? Oh, talking of patch management, this new Java thing, log log something. I know it's log something because I actually had guys in my team just ensure and validate that we are not affected by that particular vulnerability. Log4j, it's a logging what? Don't want to call it a service. Logging utility in Java has a remote code execution, pretty nasty. Almost all major players are affected, so just ensure you are patching. Then you have the Grafana one. I just check out the latest vulnerabilities and ensure you're patching where needed. I did a quick look on Shodan Grey Noiser. Nothing so far affecting Kenya. Good part of East Africa, at least publicly. Should be good for a few more days before the hidden things get discovered. So, coming back to local file inclusion vulnerability, what is it? So basically, I won't bore you with all these. I will request guys just to go through them to ensure you understand the parts that I'm going to miss. However, to easily explain it, let's jump straight into it. I know that. What do we need? So to actually easily explain this, when you talk of LFI, let's take this particular. Let's take this particular. I need to stop Firefox from auto completing and showing guys everything. Everything I access. Okay. Anyway, let's jump to this particular code right here, this particular bit of the URL. Now in this URL, we see that we have error equals to error.txt. So what this basically means that this endpoint here will always try load this error.txt file depending on the application logic. Now this follows up that this here is a file. So with local file inclusion, we can try and trick the web browser and tell it try load maybe this file. Now most browsers are running Linux, and this is one of those common Linux files. So we can actually try and trick the the web server, and tell it, can you load this file? Now, if this web server is vulnerable to local file inclusion, it will actually load that file, which is not meant to happen. Let's see, and it actually does load that file. For your information, there was a nasty Apache vulnerability that actually had that was related to local file inclusion. You might want to use Shodan just to check that out. So day 6, I hope it's day 6. It was basically about the local file inclusion. This section basically highlights what I've mentioned. So we have file. For your information, file will be the entry point, and we have the file that is being loaded, in this case user.cv.pdf. You can't change this to any other file, and if the web server is vulnerable to that, it will load that particular file. So this section here basically covers the PHP logic, which basically, so we basically use get to load a file. This file might be a variable, or might be anything. So it basically follows that whatever you put in here will eventually end up being loaded. So moving on, we are told the common files that you should be able to load are using the LFI vulnerability. Most guys will target the etc password file because this file basically contains it contains the username in that particular server. It can offer a very good insight into the number of the actual usernames on that server, and you basically can use that to improve your word list or brute force attack that you might be doing. So from here we're basically told to try load this particular file. So we already done the PHP, the etc password, which is pretty trivial. What I loved about this was we're just being told additional ways to escape. Now, depending with how that server has been configured, if it has a firewall, these might easily be get flagged by the WAF. I know ModSec in most cases will pick this up and block it. So we are told other ways you can try to obfuscate, try to bypass such restriction. So if I copy this, take it right here, still the same thing, we still get our file being loaded. So this might work or might be blocked. If it is blocked, you basically want to try another bypass technique. So there are multiple bypass techniques out there. Well, I don't do this on daily basis. So for the guys who do this on daily basis, I know they usually talk about googling and just googling your way out. So at times it will work, at times it won't work. Like in this case, this particular bypass, this one right here, hasn't worked. So after that, we are told to start our machine, which I've already done. Then we go to the exploitation. Anything important being told here? Yes. One thing that of importance being told here is how to use the PHP filters. Specifically, how you can use the PHP filter to still access this file using this particular PHP filter. So it basically reads this file directly. Now these might be one way of bypassing this approach right here, where you get to do what? Where you get to access the file directly. So instead of going it using this approach right here, where you're basically loading the file directly, you can try load the file using the PHP filter. So the thing to note here is that this endpoint is the one vulnerable, so it never changes. So if I do that, I still get my result right there. Now what I loved about this was this approach where you get to use this encoding and basic encryption to still load that particular file. The reason you want to do this is if you have something like Suricata installed, the moment you get this output, it will throw an alert, a network intrusion detection alert that this particular, I think that signature is very static, so it looks think it basically looks for root this syntax here, and throws you that alert, and busted. So to bypass that, I guess one of the ways you could go about that is actually encrypting or using base64 to do that. So let's just check this output change, and you see it changes. Not in such a complex way, but you can see we don't have those indication of root. I think a better approach will actually to use the base64 encoding aspect of this. So if we go with base64 encoded, which is slightly better, it's still the exact same thing that we go to, and now we access the file directly. So we have done that. Let me see. So we have done base64. There was something else that was pretty interesting. So we are told now to use this base64 to load the index page. Now if you try to load the index page initially, it won't load. So if we do index.php, it's not going to load. However, if we were to encode this and say index.php, we get some output. So this is base64 encoded. To get the clear text, we just copy this string. I'm going to use CyberChef. So I already had CyberChef loaded somewhere. If you don't know how to load it, just type Google CyberChef. In most cases, it will be the first URL loaded. Click on it. Once it loads, paste your code. For most basic encryption and coding, you get this particular magic wand. Click on it and you get everything in clear text. So right here we see some information. We see this is definitely a flagger, probably we'll be using it. We see other files that we can load, so include creds. So let's just go ahead, load this file. So there we are. So I'm just going to copy it right there. I load something, I copy the string, duplicate my tab, because man, laziness is good. It's not being lazy, it's being efficient. Now, one thing I noticed, if you duplicate the CyberChef tab, in my case it messed up a few things for me because it added this detect file type. So what I was doing was once I duplicate my CyberChef, I clear the recipe and just ensure I can use the Wanda. And with Wanda, we seem to have some user credentials. Now, if you are following the guide, these might come in handy somewhere. And it had me really, I was wondering, what do these guys expect me to do? So somewhere along this guide, you'll be told that you can only view these logs once you authenticate into the system. Now, once you authenticate into the web application, however, there wasn't really a very good explanation on how that particular authentication was meant to happen. Maybe, how are we doing on time? 14 minutes. So maybe I was overthinking the approach, but that is one thing I noted, and I was like, come on. Anyway, so what have we done? We have been able to load the index page using base64, took the encoded string to CyberChef, I got some juicy information. So we got this creds file that we loaded. We also have this, well, we additionally have this header file. So you can go through all these and just see what you are able to load. What else? We also have this manage.php file. Why not? You can still actually go ahead and try to load it, try to see the PHP code. So moving on, so the other thing that was mentioned here was how you can also use PHP data, the PHP data wrapper, to basically post content onto the site. So let me see anything that was being done here. So this is basically echo being piped to base64. Yes, I guess this is basically echo being piped to base64. What was of interest for us was this particular code right here. So with this code, you just copy it as it is. Let's see what it displays. I know I went wrong. Okay, still have some minutes. So we copy this last bit. I remember we had our entry point, so error, so I just paste it on error. And when you do that, we see here now we got our code to execute on the site itself. Probably this will come useful at some point. So the main takeaway, yeah, so this is basically what I was mentioning. How do you access this logs.php when it's not been adequately communicated to you? Because for you to access this, you basically need to log in. You need to log in using, recall those credentials we had, using those credentials, the MaxKiddy guy thing. So you already have them somewhere. So I'm just going to hide all these. Where am I supposed to be? Okay, where is the tab I'm looking for? So I'm going there we go. So there we go. So I need to open my tab, my notepad. So I had those credentials already copied in for me, but we still same credentials we got from CyberChef. So if I do this and I sign in, I will be able to access these log files. However, knowing that these logs are here, nothing is actually stopping you from using the data wrapper. Was it the data wrapper? Was it the data wrapper? No, the file wrapper. This filter right here. Yes, the PHP filter. Nothing is stopping you from using this. The filter wrapper. Yes, the filter wrapper to access the log file. So to basically access logs.php. So what you're being told here is, so we are pivoting from local file inclusion to remote code execution. So remote code execution basically means that you can send pieces of code to the server, and when you access that piece of code on the server via LFI, that piece of code gets executed. Sounds a bit complicated. I will explain it in a minute. So rest of the section basically states that you can use, for instance, the user agent to send your remote code execution payload. Then once that has been loaded, use the LFI to detonate that particular payload. So we are told that we can use curl using switch A to say the user agent. This is a string, then we send our payload. If we send our payload and you look at the logs, you will see something similar to this. I believe if I go to my logs, we actually should be able to see that. Are we able to see that? If we are not able to see that, we will just replay that. So to replay that, I'm on VPN. So what I did was just I use PowerShell here. So first we use PowerShell and say curl, this is string. So curl.exe, we send it. If we have sent it successfully, if I come to my logs, I should be able to see those logs here. So this is a test. This is here is. So this is a testing by guest. Yes, it is by guest because we have used PowerShell. We have not been able to authenticate. Now, building on top of that, we can now actually issue a payload. Now, remember, we are sending this without being authenticated into the system. Now, we can actually use this PHP file. So this is a common PHP thingy that basically gives you additional information about PHP. So if I do that, that has been sent successfully. Now, if I'm able to access my log file using LFI, I should be able to see this particular output. So where are our logs stored? Our logs, we are told, are stored under logs.php. So we can go back here and which wrapper we meant to use? We are meant to use the filter wrapper. Yeah, I got it right. It is the filter wrapper. So just in the interest of time, I have my filter wrapper copied somewhere. So I will just paste it there and say logs.php. Here we have our encoded string. I just copy everything, bring it back to CyberChef. I can remove that, decode it. If I decode this, why am I not seeing what? Yes, I know why I'm not seeing what I'm meant to be seeing, because the file you're meant to be reading, it is logs.php. Bear with me. Now, if we go through this, so I think this was one of those challenges, like, because at that time, I had not gotten access to the backend. Now, if we go through this code, we see that the logs are written here. Include log success app.access log. So we can access this directly without even having to do that whole encryption thing. So I can delete this and just type it in here. And if I do that, I get access to the log sender. We see our PHP thing has been executed right here. There was an easier way to do this. If you figured out that if you figured out that the credentials, you will have been able to access this particular backend and try to visualize those logs. Interestingly, I can't find them in here for some weird reasons. I have no idea why, but by accessing the log file directly, we are able to get this particular information. You will need this information later on. So I went through that process. We got this. Then there's a mention of LFI to RCE via PHP sessions. Unfortunately, I don't know if I was doing this the wrong way, but for some strange reason, was I able to actually achieve this? Not really. So maybe I'll probably come back to this later. However, Based on that, I came to the answer section. You are asked that what is the entry point. Entry point is this guy right here, the R endpoint. So we got that right. Then we are told to basically use the entry point to read this file. So pretty trivial, straightforward. Where is our entry point? Entry point. There we go. Okay, I know I will need this file later on, so I'm just going to duplicate this tab. Then read our log file here, at least our flag fly or flag file. There we go. What else? I use the PHP filter the index page. I believe we already did that. Should be somewhere in here in one of our thing is in one of our thing is I guess this is it, B8. So you basically need to do the index page thing, B8. Yes, okay, let me show you how I went about that. So for this we use the filter wrapper. How are we using the filter wrapper? It was PHP filter. Here we go. Then take this to CyberChef and you get your answer. So credentials, you already got the credentials by just reading this credentials file. There was a file. So if you read this file here, so if you read this particular file here, you will be able to get your credentials. What else? Then we are meant to get the host name right there. So for this host name, remember the PHP info. Yes, you can go through it, or you can just search for host name. And if you search for host name, you get multiple entries, but this host name is what you're looking for. And once you're done with that, voila, and you are done. Now once you're done, as I mentioned before, for this session file I wasn't really able to get it, but I hope just this overview helps you. So just to reiterate, how you might be able to avoid the mistakes I did is basically, so when you use the PHP filter wrapper, what you want to do is use your curiosity to, for instance, go through this file right here, see what it contains, go through the log.php file, see what it contains, go through the header.php file, see what it contains. I think we have been told earlier that recon in this particular case is a very, very, very important and useful. So that was it for my day 6. Pretty interesting, but slightly challenging compared to the previous 5 days, but as always, very insightful, takeaway from here right now. At least I know how I can weaponize and basically pivot from LFI to a remote code execution. And that brings us to a wrap. Thank you so much for being part of this, for the guys who have joined, and the guys who are liking this content, subscribing to it, are pretty much awesome. Now I'm conflicted on how to move on with the next content, because I see I'm moving from 10 minutes to 29 minutes, which is like a very, very, very long time. I know I don't well, it's expiring soon. It's okay. Can I add another hour? Like I could add, but I'm done with this box. So personally, it's hard for me to dedicate and allocate those 30 minutes just to watch some guy, random guy, sharing content. At least to do that frequently is harder. For me, the 10 minutes range is typically at that particular sweet spot. So for day what? For day 6 or day 7, I will try figure out an approach to go about this. And yes, I know, guys, I know. So dome and reflected exercise. Yes, I still need to get some veterans to come share this out. Also, this session hijacking from an LFI point of view, I'm hoping I will be able to get a few guys to just come and shed some light in regards to how they went about it. All in all, it's been fun, it's been great learning as I move on. Highly encourage and commend guys to just go through this. And that brings us to a wrap. I have a feeling I've repeated this multiple times. Anyway, guys who are liking these, thank you so much. Guys who are even going ahead and subscribing it, like, man, I don't know. I'm just doing this for the good vibe, learning. Like, I just want to try my level best, generate content, but I really appreciate it. And yeah, continue doing that. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely evening, lovely morning, lovely afternoon, lovely rest of the day, lovely weekend. Monday is a holiday in Kenya, so it's going to be a long holiday for us. For everyone else, till the next video, bye bye. See you then.